Yo, 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 you made it. It's your favorite comic on the rise, back with season 2 of the Comedy Chatter podcast. You've been searching for a pod that talks all things comedy, as well as kicking with some of the dopest comics in the game, then this is the podcast for you. There they go. What's good people? Meldon Williams here, Comedy Chatter podcast. I'm back, season 2. Episode 3. What's good? I know. Y'all been looking for me. I understand totally, man. For those y'all that's been messing with the Comedy Chatter podcast, man, y'all been on a small hiatus. I understand. I had some people emailing me, hey, man, when the next pod? What's going on? What's the deal, man? I know you ain't stopping. No. To answer your question, no, I'm not stopping, man. I just been on a small little hiatus. Had a whole lot of stuff I had to take care of, man, and the pod, to be totally honest with you, just kind of became, in the back of the bus in terms of priorities. As an adult, hey, we got to make those decisions sometimes, but never stopping though, man. This is too much fun. This is too much of a labor of love for myself, man. I love doing it. I love bringing you guys this content. I love, everything that I do. I love, comedy. You already know that. And by this being a comedy podcast, man, it's always something that we can, kind of chat about. It's always something we can talk about. That's kind of why I started this thing, on top of, providing content for people to know who I am, out there in the world. Also, I'm a huge fan of comedy, man, stand up and, everything else. And so that's why I do these podcasts, man, and kind of reach out to you guys, man, and kind of get some feedback as to what you guys are talking about in the comedy world, and just, that's why I do this. So y'all always know how I start this thing out, man. Ain't nothing changed. I do my shout outs to the people that are integral to me, bringing this thing to you. Roger Feeney, Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase manager, the place where I started. He runs things over there, man. He allows me, the opportunity to interview the comedians. I set up in the green room, and when they come in, on the weekends, I ask them if, they'll bless me with an interview. If they say yes, then it goes down. If not, then I move on to the next one. Everybody don't want to be interviewed. I understand. Some people just want to come and do their headliner sets and then get out of there. I understand. But to those who are gracious enough to bless me with an interview, man, it's real cool. And, the person that allows that to happen is the manager of the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, Mr. Roger Feeney. I appreciate you much, sir. Second, Mr. David Pittman. For any of those who don't know David Pittman, y'all check him out on his iTunes and his SoundCloud and his Facebook. A really, really good brother, man. That's why I always shout him out, because when this thing was first starting, when it was first beginning, and I had a vision, I was like, man, how am I going to make this podcast work? I don't know anything about podcasting. I don't know where to go. And then a good friend of mine, a comedic friend of mine, actually, she said, go check out this brother named David Pittman. He may be able to help you. And, man, I hit him up, and I told him, I said, hey, this is a labor of love. I'm not making any money off of it. I don't have anything. And while a couple other people who I went to before David was like trying to charge me like $1,000, like, hey, man, I'll do your podcast, or, all this money. He didn't ask me for a red cent. He's just like, hey, man, I'll help you out. I'll show you what you need. Show you the, instruments. I'll show you the tools. I'll show you all the, stuff that you need to get. I'll show you how to, load this up on this. I'll show you how to put this up on that, and help me, in terms of, editing and all the sound and everything, man, to bring this thing to you guys. So I'll never stop shouting him out, man. And I appreciate you so much, David Pittman, man, for doing that. Anything you need, bro. Anytime I can help out, man, you keep me posted, definitely. All right, man, what we going to chat about today? First things first, a bit of a somber mood, somber thing to talk about. We had a comedian in the Detroit area who recently succumbed to cancer, man. He passed away. I did not know this brother all that well, to be honest with you. I, shared the stage with him a couple times. But I knew of him, like he was a fixture in the Detroit, comedy scene. Everybody knew this brother, and yeah, man, it kind of hit everybody really, really hard. You know how somebody that you just, you never think like that, you just think they always gonna be there. You hey, he was one of those kind of brothers, man. You perform with him on stage and you laugh with him and you joke with him, and he's just gonna always be on his social media, and he's always gonna be there. So when he passed, man, I could tell how much the community was affected, and I'm talking about not just Detroit, but people all over the country, that did comedy. This brother was a fixture in the comedy game, but he's out of Detroit. Of course, I'm talking about the legendary Kool-Aid. His real name was Tyrone Wright. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly. But yes, Kool-Aid. Everybody knew him as Kool-Aid, and this brother has been around for a while. He did a real killer set on Comic View when it came to Detroit. He's done a whole bunch of other television appearances. But yeah, man, you get a chance to see how much people, how good people are, and how much they affected other people's lives. It's sad to say, but you get to see that when they pass away. Because when they pass away, man, you just start getting, like, everybody just, I'm talking about, like, my timeline was flooded for, like, a week. You know what I'm saying? Like, after he passed and people heard it about it, I'm talking about just tears, and I'm talking about people doing posts and people, doing lives, and, you know what I'm saying? I had somebody drop a line on Facebook the other day that I'd never heard before. He had, his funeral was just recently, and they said this is the best funeral I've ever been to. And I was like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, I've never heard those words uttered before together. The best funeral. I've heard best carnival. I've heard best movie. I've heard all, but never the best funeral. And, that spoke a lot to him. That spoke a lot to the cat he was, I'm sure, because everybody loved him, and everybody was at his funeral. And, I just had to go ahead and, take the time during this pod to, acknowledge Mr. Tyrone Wright, a.k.a. Kool-Aid. Judging by, what everyone has said, man, like I said, I didn't know him well. And I'm not one of those, guys, those fake guys that'll try to act, try to make this some type of, moment for me. You know what I mean? Like, by posting all these pictures and all, oh man, Kool-Aid. Like, I didn't know him well. So, I posted a picture telling the story about how he got me on stage at the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase one night. That was pretty much, he had a show. J.J. Williamson was headlining, and I just so happened to be there. And I love J.J. Williamson, as everybody knows. He did my pod, the last episode, episode 2, season 2. Check that out if you haven't heard it yet. And Kool-Aid put that show together, and he was hosting. And when we had a conversation in the back in the green room, he was like, yeah, man, of course. Like, yeah, you do comedy, man, yeah. Like, I know you, what I'm saying, Meldon Williams. Like, we ain't never met, what I'm saying, but I know you from Facebook, blah, blah. And, hey, before I knew it, 5 minutes later, I was on stage opening up, the show. So yeah, man, like I said, I'm not, that's the one story that I have with Kool-Aid. So, I just wanted to kind of pay homage to him and tell everybody that, I'm riding with him, and, people that are grieving because they truly miss him. He would truly be missed. He's definitely a legendary cat in the comedy game, especially in the Detroit game. So rest in heaven, Kool-Aid. What else was going on, man? I heard Ellen just dropped her new special on Netflix. I wonder how much Ellen got paid. You ever think about that? Ever since the whole Monique thing, like, anytime somebody drops a Netflix special, the first thing that I think is, man, I wonder how much they got paid, And not that I'm, trying to count nobody money. Hey, to each his own, But ever since the whole Monique, gender bias and racial bias, and her going that route. Whenever time somebody drops something else, I'm like, I wonder how much they got paid, But yeah, Ellen just dropped a special. Y'all hit me up, man. Email me, Facebook me, whatever. Tell me if it's good. I'm not really interested, like, in an Ellen, special. So from what I've heard so far, I've just seen a couple of Facebook posts. Said it's pretty good. It's Ellen's pretty funny, but to be honest, she's kind of switched over to the done the TV hosts, type. She's doing like game shows. I saw a game show commercial recently where, like, she say she was dropping somebody into a tank or kicking somebody off of a. Yeah, I was like, what is Ellen doing? But anyway, I think she's definitely a talented comedian, and she's probably if you did a list, I'm sure she's on a few people's top 10, maybe in terms of just stand up comedy. she definitely knows how to stand in front of a room and tell a joke. She writes very well, so yeah. But I'm just not, I'm just not interested. It's just certain people that come out and you're like, what I'm saying, I'm not really, you know. But other people, you're like, oh hell yeah, I'm interested in that. I would love to see that. Like, I keep telling people right now, like I don't care what nobody say. Carlos Miller, like everybody knows how big a fan I am of him. I watched this dude like climb in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Just grinding, and now he's doing his thing, but he's still kind of a bit of an unknown in terms of the grand scale of comedy things. But this is the funniest cat that I've seen in a long while do stand up. He is on deck. All he's waiting for is that shot, that shot to send him into the stratosphere. And so I'm waiting on his Netflix special. I know he's doing all the 85 South stuff with DC Young Fly and Chico and all them, and they riding that Wild 'N Out fame. But yeah, once he goes ahead and split up from the gang and do his own thing, that Netflix special is gonna be ridiculous. So that's who I'm waiting on. Carlos Miller, man. Shout out to you, man. Hopefully you could hurry up and get that popping. Where my drunks at? Where the drunks at? Yes, indeed. That's all the fuck I want to know. Where the drunks at? Now, hey, I don't want you to be faking the funk, though. I mean drunks. Goddamn it. I ain't talking about like no regular, like not an alcoholic. I'm talking about a motherfucking drunk. Shit, I'm talking about when your liver got a problem. You know what I mean? Your liver need to be in the motherfucking Hall of Fame. That's what I'm talking about. Shit, your liver got other body parts getting mad. Like the kidneys is like, God damn, liver. Shit. Drunks. Yes, indeed, man. I'm gonna let you know if you're a real drunk, man. You ever cuss your own mama out? That's how you know you a drunk. You have to apologize the next morning. Look, Mom, I said some things, you said some things. Shut your drunk ass up. Shit, man. You know you a drunk if you ever slept on your own motherfucking front porch? Oh, yeah. Your body just gave out when that key went in, like. Your kid stepping over you the next day trying to go to sleep. Oh shit, Dad. Oh god damn. That's a drunk, goddamn it. That's all I'm trying to say. Any perverts? Any perverts in here? Yes, this is my wife right here. Shit, I drunk and pervert, yeah. She put her hand up there. Yes, me, goddammit, me. I like that shit, man. Hey, you notice my hand went up. Hey, the older you get, the more perverted you get. I'm serious. I'm getting older, man. I'm perving off of a shit I'm not even supposed to perv off of, sir. Like the whole breastfeeding thing. You ever heard about this? Yeah, they say, hey, the people be saying shit like, no, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't breastfeed in public. Like, no one wants to see that. You should do that in the confines of your own home. I'm like, oh, wait, motherfucker. Speak for yourself. Yeah, man. New material. That's what I wanted to talk about. Like I said, this is definitely a podcast where I talk all things comedy. And part of me, talking comedy, I've been, saying in the game, I started in 2007. So, this would make 11 years, going on, December, December would be 11 years in the comedy game. Now, even though I really didn't get serious until 2010, I've still been around. So I always say that. So with that said, I'm always down to talk about and then give whatever advice I have in terms of, comedy and, things of that nature, writing, all that stuff. Just how comedians, do things. And so, I figured that this go around, I'll talk about new material and when you decide to perform it, basically. When you decide to debut it, to display it. Yeah, what are your thoughts about that, man? Go ahead and hit me up. Like I said, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, man. Whatever, email, whatever it is that you got. All my stuff is out there, Twitter. But yeah, I would love to know how you guys feel about when you display your new material as comedians. I had a cat ask me recently on a Facebook post. He said, hey, man, I'm thinking about, doing comedy for the first time. Any suggestions? And I told him, I said, hey, man, the biggest thing to do is write you some jokes down. You know what I'm saying? And, just know where you're going, have some material, and then have fun. Like, that's it. Like, that's all the advice I really can give you. It's not really a whole bunch of stroke when you have never done it. It's about you getting up there. Get up there on that stage and bomb or do well or do a mix of both, whatever it is. But Hey, just write you some stuff down there so you have a blueprint, so you don't just kind of go up there and freeze. You know where you're going. And that's not to guarantee. That doesn't guarantee you're not gonna freeze either. By the way, once all them people, you see all them people. But yeah, and then just have fun after that, man. That's what you got to do, and then you just keep getting up there, and before long, you're like, hey, man, I've, found my legs. But yeah, to the comedians that's been working out there and just been doing the things. When do you display your new material? And I know there's some people that do open mics. And I do my fair. I did an open mic recently in Minneapolis, man, at the House of Comedy. I had a really good time there. They, had a Tuesday night open mic, and I just happened to be in town, and went over there and asked on to the stage. They let me on. It was an open mic where it was pretty much, up and coming comedians. But for the most part, like I said, I don't consider myself, a open mic comedian anymore. Like that was real new. Like 11 years into the game, I'm featuring. I'm trying to feature now. So that's something that I've done. In the past, featured and look to start doing more in the future. But so. I've also hosted, and I do guest sets as well. I do guest sets all over the country. So I'm asking, like, yeah, when do you debut your new material? Like, is that something that you do only at open mics? Do you show up at open mics only to debut your new material, or do you debut it at guest sets? Do you debut it when you host? When you host, do you try out all your new material? Or are you just one of those, like, hey, who's got a birthday out here today? And, say who's, who's getting married? Are you one of those kind of hosts? Like, it's funny to me that there's so many different answers to this question. That's the reason why I'm, kind of reaching out. I will say how I do it, though. I try my best. Like I said, I'll still do an open mic, but I'm not, I'm not the guy that's like, showing up and putting my name in the hat and all of that. See, I went through all of that. That was my first, 5 years of comedy. Just trying to be the open mic dude. But then once I started hosting, and once I started doing guest sets, and then once I started, producing my own shows where I was doing 20 minutes, it was kind of, hard to, and like I said, I'm not saying that I'm above it. I still, I have to go to other places. Like I said, I'm 11 years in the game, and I did an open mic, 2 weeks ago. So I'm not above it. I'll go to other places and just kind of just to get the stage time. But yeah, I'll tell you how I do it. Like I said, I try my best. If it's not an open mic, if it's a guest set, I try to do 2 new jokes. Debut 2 new jokes. Hey man, this is something that I've never tried before, but I'm gonna try it on this crowd. It's a nice full crowd. Usually, when you guest set, you usually guest setting for a full audience because it's a Friday or a Saturday. And then I'll try 2, 2 or 3 jokes that I know that that are proven, that I've done before, and that's how I debut my new material. I try to hit them with those guest sets, because like I said, I'm not, I don't do that many open mics anymore. I don't show up for open mics anymore. It's tough. Open mics, the crowds are 20 people in there sometimes. If that. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to gauge your jokes, and know if you got anything, and because like I said, I'm not the comedian that's just trying to still get up on stage and find my legs. Those are the people that's 3 to 5 years in the game. Like I said, after you've done it about 10 plus years, hey, you looking for some rooms. Now I'm looking for some featuring. I'm looking for some rooms where I can get in front of some people and get it in. So that's my take on debuting new material. You guys tell me what you think when you get a chance. Yep, y'all hit me up, like I said, on all that stuff, man. At Meldon's Comedy on IG. I don't think I ever really give out all this stuff because I'm not huge in the social media game. I know people be seeing my social media and be laughing at me like, dang, this motherfucker ain't got but this many followers. But hey, like I said, hey, I'm 41 years old. I ain't with all that, that's like kid shit when you living through social media. I'm a grown ass man, so that's my response to that. But hey, it's a necessity now in the comedy game. So at Meldon's Comedy IG, at Meldon Williams Twitter, and then just my name, Meldon Williams, on Facebook. Man, hit me up. Tell me what y'all think about debuting new material, when you debut your new material, and all of those things. Special guest today. Yes, indeed. You know what? I've been, we're gonna talk about this in the interview, but like I've been stalking this cat for a while now, trying to get him, trying to get him to do an interview with me, and I finally caught up with him. Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, Mr. Dave Landau, very very funny comedian out of Detroit, the Detroit area. He, sat down with me, gave me a really good interview. You guys are going to enjoy it. So without further ado, Mr. Dave Landau, Season 2, Episode 3, Comedy Chatter Podcast. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Comedy Chatter Podcast, Season 2, Episode 3. After a whole lot of stalking, me and him have already laughed about it. We've already joked about it. But after a lot of stalking, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything, I got the one and only Mr. Dave Landau. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. How about you?
Doing well. We just got done rocking the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase tonight. I knew I would catch him here. I was like, if any, I tried Ridley's. I've tried. Did you do one night stand? I think
one night stands in Waterford.
One night stands in the new club.
Yes.
My man Mike Green, he was a former. He was on the pod before as well. Did you do that as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking about I'm gonna catch him there. I'm a kid. He worked in Michigan and it never worked. But I said, you know what? Damn it, I got him if he comes to the showcase, and so it worked out, man. So appreciate you giving me that opportunity to get you here. So let's just jump right in, man. The way I usually start the pod. Not sure if you're a sports fan at all.
Not really.
Yeah. So see, we whenever I ask this question, I just have people take it in any direction they'd like to take it. So LeBron James, L.A. Lakers this year. I know that you're probably got New York and Detroit ties, but what are you thinking in terms of him? What do you think they're going to do? I mean, is it going to be anything that you're even worried about?
Well, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
Oh, yes.
To give you an idea.
Yes.
I don't follow too much basketball. I used to back when Detroit was the Bad Boys, and I still have shirts from that era, the Chuck Daly era, and Bill Laimbeer and Isaiah Thomas, and just all like Rodman.
No, wasn't that the goal? That was it though. Like you said, if you were up on that shit, you don't need this shit. I'm telling you now.
Well, now it's too like it just seemed like I don't know if people were smaller, if that makes sense. But now it's like every sport is just a monster.
Yes, very true. Very true.
I have nothing against LeBron. People seem to love and hate him. I say, good for him. Clearly he's very talented.
More power to him. Yeah.
I assume he's probably going to do pretty well with the LA Lakers. They tend to be a fairly solid team from what I can tell.
Exactly. Yeah. And they were terrible for a while, and then they finally got they're good. They always need the goose to lay to go.
Well, you got to have Shaquille or they had Kobe, and everybody. So it's like they always have somebody that works out in their favor and is the entire team.
Exactly, and that's exactly what's going on now. So that's kind of how I started. And the funny part about that is, whenever I start the pod like that, so now I know what direction I can take it. Like you didn't even know he was there, so you're not a big sports man.
My dad coached basketball, played football. I grew up in a sports family, and I just did not have an interest in it. I like live sports. I'll go. If you want to take me to a Lakers game, I'll be there in a heartbeat because I love live sports, but I just don't follow it.
Okay, got you totally. So, from Detroit,
yes,
New York. You know what I'm saying? How'd that whole thing happen? How'd you get to New York? Like what was going on from New York, Detroit to New York?
I started doing a lot of not guest sets, but I started doing a lot of guest appearances on the Anthony Cumia Show.
Okay.
And then he brought on Artie Lang, and it became the Artie and Anthony Show.
Lang.
Yeah, and I started going in a lot with Artie and Anthony, and they both really liked me and pushed for me to be what they call third one on the show.
Okay.
And I got brought in the beginning of the year, in May, to be the third mic on the Artie and Anthony Show.
Okay.
So then Artie's off the show now. There was a rest and a couple things, but we just had him back on the other day, so it's now the Anthony Cumia Show with Dave Landau.
Exactly. So, I saw that. Now I was going to bring that up, but now that you brought it up, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, how's Artie doing? He's another one of my guys that I just kind of like. Once I found guys like him and Patrice and Neil online, and once I found him, he helped me out comedically because he's just one of those guys that was like, hey, look, fuck it, like I'll go on stage and I'll die purposely just to bring myself out of the hole. And when I heard that, I was like, holy shit. So then I heard, he's going through a lot of stuff. I'm seeing him nowadays, all those pictures they putting up. So how was he now that you saw him recently?
Oh, with Artie, because you're mentioning Patrice and how all those guys. Artie's, I don't know how good he is. That's a tough thing to say. Like he's going into recovery. He just got out of court where he did test positive for cocaine, but not for heroin. Okay. He's off heroin. We had him on the show the other day. He was sober. He was sitting right next to me. Mm-hmm. Sharper than he had been the last time I saw him. And he had been fucked up. He'd attacked me on some level in the show, and but he's going through a tough time. And I think it goes to show like why he's still alive is karma, because he's like a really good human being. Yeah. And I think anybody else would be dead, but you just can't kill him because he's a nice guy.
I get it.
And I really do hope that he continues his path to sobriety. I don't know how much long he's got left. He's talked about that, sober or not. But it would be really nice to see him, because the second he goes back to being who he was, it's going to just be indestructible. He's one of the greatest to live. So.
Yeah. Like I said, man, I got hip to him online, a lot of YouTube stuff from suggestions of people, and he helped me comedically. Because, I used to always, like, coming up, you think, like, man, I hope I don't die tonight. That's the one thing we bomb. Guys like him, Patrice O'Neal, they start saying, hey, dude, if you die, fuck it. Like, take everybody with you. Like, have that kind of confidence to say, hey, fuck it, you get up there, it's going to happen, do it. And what both of those people are
what Patrice O'Neal said, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was like he learned how to kill, but then he learned how to be himself. Yeah. And when it's the comfort in yourself where you're willing to say anything, and you might walk the room, you might piss people off, then you get Elephant in the Room, which is like the best special.
One of the best specials ever. You're absolutely right. I loved it.
Yeah, and it was a lot of that Opie and Anthony group, like Norton, Colin Quinn, Patrice, all those guys that, to sit in the room with all those people now is fucking crazy.
Has to be.
It's everyone I admire, and it's very, very cool to just be a part of it.
It has to be. I'm definitely going to get there as well, too. Now, when you're in New York, are you still going up? Kind of like I'm working on stuff. I'm going to the Cellar, going to the Broadway. Are you doing it?
Yeah, I do. I mainly just do Gotham, and then I'll go to, like, random places where I'm invited, or, like, Dangerfields and some other stuff. But Gotham's always been good to me.
Yeah, I saw your Gotham set.
Yeah, I did 4 TV appearances with them, and then one for Oculus.
Well, I saw one of them there.
Yeah, like it's my favorite club in New York, and one of the best in the country. So
I can't wait to at least go and check it out.
Yeah, that's sort of my home base. Like, I do that, but then I do so much stand up on the road. Like, sometimes you just need nights to yourself, and I just kind of relax and watch movies, catch up on pop culture, do that stuff. But I try to get up once or twice a week.
Okay, at least that's more than enough for some traveling, headliner like yourself.
Yeah, because you're leaving anyway. Yeah, so
exactly. Now I got to know about Landau the kid, like Landau, but growing up in Detroit.
Yes.
How was it, Landau, growing up in Detroit? And I just heard your set, so I learned a little bit about you. So tell me about Landau, the kid growing up. What high school, by the way?
I went to Grosse Pointe North.
Okay,
I grew up in the Harper Woods, Grosse Pointe border off of 8 Mile and 94.
I know that area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I grew up right there, and I was a relatively shy kid, and then I started acting out in middle school once I noticed like girls and wanted to be popular.
So rebelling, just
and then my dad. It's a long story. My dad got diagnosed with brain cancer, and he kind of wasn't around as much. And he was like my hero, our Little League coach. So he was all over the country getting neurosurgeries, and it was a bad thing. And he died, and I just, to numb the pain of what was going on in my life, I just was an alcoholic, drug addict, sold drugs.
You talk about it a lot too, which I admire. Yeah, he's like, hey, I'm gonna open book. You know what I mean?
Well, I was arrested 12 times by the time I was 20, and then or even 19 maybe, and then I was arrested one time as an adult at 27, and that's when I decided to get sober, and everything was alcohol and drug related. And so that's I mean, it's all I can say is I was a really rebellious kid, and when I was 19. When I got out of high school, I joined Second City, and ever since then, I've just been focusing on comedy, and it's been the comedy, other than my family, is the most positive influence in my life.
Awesome. So. It's funny that you segue right to there, because I was going to get next on my little list of stuff that I was going to ask, but it was about improv. Yeah. Like, it's always interesting to me when stand-ups start or do some type of improv. Like me, I've been doing stand-up for about 11 years now, have never gotten there. So I just want to know what your influence, how the improv influences your stand-up.
I think improv and stand-up go hand in hand, and it's weird how you pick one or the other. Artie Lang's like that. He started improv and was on Mad TV and that kind of stuff. It's I think it just allows you to think on your feet, be quick, especially when you have hecklers and anything like that. It also allows you to kind of be able to think in the moment, as opposed to just always doing written jokes. You can play around a little easier. I think that improv is essentially what you do in radio. It's what we're doing right now. You're just talking, So I think it's a huge thing that's a positive for comics. I mean, there's not a lot of money in it. It can be very, very cliquey and very, very pretentious, which is why people don't like it.
Gotcha.
And I get that. But if you can get through some classes and get through, or even be part of a troupe, and I was a part of a troupe with Sam Richardson from Detroiters and Veep, and we used to do shows. We used to do shows at the Village Idiot in Detroit that I ran, and it was my wife and I ran it. At that time, girlfriend. And, I had a long history with improv and doing it in the city and turning the Village Idiot at the time into a little comedy place.
Yeah, you can tell. Like you said, now that you say that, you can tell just how quick you are on your feet. Hecklers and all that, none of that bothers you. And you told me the key earlier before we even started was, hey, just don't get mad. Keep staying on your feet. Because that's what a lot of times happens. They get mad. Then you got Michael Richards.
Yes. Then you get, when you're not great at improv, and then you get very upset. Well, that is true, though. You have a meltdown, and nobody wants to see that.
Exactly. That was going to be my segue too, though. It's like you're reading my mind. I was going to ask, you just mentioned someone, when you were coming up, did you have a sort of comedy fraternity, like guys that you went around with, like you hear about Rock and Sandler and all these guys coming up together? And then I interviewed someone like Roy Wood, and he was like, oh no, lonely for me. I'm all by myself.
Well, he was in the South, too.
Exactly. He was in the South.
Birmingham.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So entirely different market. I came up with a really great group of guys. I mean, Matt McClowry, Nate Fritzen, Mike Costa, who's on The Daily Show now. Awesome. Mike Stanley, who's a great comic. Martin Butler.
Okay.
God, there were so many. Brent Sullivan, he's been on Conan a bunch.
I know these names.
There were a lot of really good people, actually, that I came up with, and it was really cool to be a part of, and a lot of them are still really good friends with me today.
Awesome.
So, awesome. I was lucky. We had we had Bill Bishart, at Joey's, and put us up every week.
Mark Ridley's and Joey's. And
Mark managed me after 9 months, and I owe my career to him. Mark and Roger are my two, there's probably three, and Brad Garrett are my three favorite people in comedy. And Chris Mazzilli at Gotham. I'm going to go for it. But of all the people higher up, those are the best.
Yeah, love Roger. Like I say, just one of the fair. Every time somebody asks me about it, I say, one of the fairest guys you'll ever want to meet. He's not going to give anybody. You're never going to go oh man, Roger did this for this guy, didn't do it for me. Hey, if he likes you and you come and you show in your face, he's going to put you up there.
Dude, he's a no bullshit guy in a bullshit business. Exactly. And that's something you just don't see.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah, perfect way to put it. So talk to me. I got to talk to you about some TV stuff.
Sure.
You were on Last Comic Standing, man.
Yes.
You got to tell me about that. How was your experience? I mean, positive, negatives. Positives there, negatives there. Who won it the year that you were on? If you can remember.
Rodman?
Oh, okay. I remember Rodman out of Atlanta with the kind of slow,
older. Like you might be Huck Finn's friend.
exactly.
Bit of a character.
Yep, a bit.
I got on it. Wanda Sykes and Paige Horwitz had invited me on it, and
holy shit,
it was very cool for that reason. But what also was cool about it was I got to meet pretty much my number one hero in comedy, which is Keenen Ivory Wayans.
Really? Yeah, you like Keenen? Oh man, we got that in common.
Yeah, I grew up watching In Living Color. Like my favorite movies he did, like I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, and
Low Down, Dirty Shame.
Like,
yes,
so many great movies. So the fact that he really liked me meant the world to me, because I mean, it was his irreverent comedy that sparked me. Like that was just a huge part of my childhood. Was In Living Color. So that was the biggest positive.
Okay, did you get a chance to chat with him and tell him any of that?
Not really. I mean,
that would have
yes
been great.
And no.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, it's so cameras on. You can't be by the judges. Like, it's an interesting thing. But like publicly, there's videos of us talking. You know, so it's
amazing.
It's interesting. But yeah, like that whole. I'm just such a big fan of that whole family. And then Roseanne liked me until she didn't.
Okay.
She didn't get a joke, and I was famously kicked off the show.
So the one about the tampon where you cut the string.
Yeah. And
I remember that, which is hilarious.
And she didn't get it, and I made fun of her for not getting it, and then I was off TV.
Really?
And then several years later, she made fun of me for not getting it. She didn't get people who didn't get her joke, and she's off TV.
And now she's gone.
What is funny is the two people who were a dick to me in show business is Roseanne and Michael Richards.
And Michael freaking Richards. And I already brought him up. We already know what happened to him.
We'll see how the third goes.
Exactly. All right. So we've already mentioned it a little bit, but I wanted you to talk a little bit about the Anthony. It's called now the Anthony Cumia and David Landau Show, right?
Yeah, the Anthony Cumia Show with Dave Landau, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Tell me a little bit about that, man. How'd you get that gig? Because he's synonymous for being like one of the great shows, Opie and Anthony on radio, right? Yep.
Yeah. It was the same, the Artie and Anthony story. That's exactly how I got it.
Okay.
And then when Artie had to leave, it became our show.
Oh, okay.
And it's interesting. Like right now, we just had Rogan on. We're kind of rebuilding a reputation. People have built him up with so much political correctness. They try to talk about like he's a white nationalist and all this other bullshit. It's like it's just annoying. It's just PC culture who don't want to hear jokes.
Really,
just irreverent comedy. And it's nice because he's going more into the mainstream, and people are starting to see us for what we really are. Because we had this idea that it was like this right-wing podcast because we had like Gavin McInnes on our channel and a few other people, and it's like, we're not. We're just guys who believe you should be able to make fun of anything.
Yeah. Which is kind of what I remember Patrice O'Neill being famously. They put him on.
Well, him and Anthony. The thing about Patrice and Anthony is they both have their racial opinions that
exactly,
clash.
And they clash.
That's why they were so funny together.
That's why they were funny. That's why we used to love it. Yeah. They had him on. Was it CNN maybe? I think it was CNN, and he was defending Don Imus after all of the crap that Don Imus had said. Patrice, and they were like, "Hey, that's basically what he was saying. Hey, jokes all come from the same place. Funny, unfunny, crazy. Is that they come from the same place?" And that's what he was defending. So that's what it sounds like. You and Anthony are like, "Hey,"
and they brought him on, and he knew it to be a shill. They wanted him to play the card and be like, "Oh, it's wrong," and they didn't get the answer out of Patrice.
Well, you already know him. Yeah, he was planning it
because he cares more about comedy than surface bullshit.
Exactly.
And that's why he was so great. And he was right. I mean, that when you listen to him, he was so right about so many things.
Yeah, he shut him up that day.
Dude, and the fact that people hold him as like a misogynist and a racist and all this other shit, it's like, I hate that comedy today would look at somebody like Patrice, who was a fucking master of his craft, as anything but that. It's it's like Carlin, man. Like, you just can't.
That's a good comparison, actually, when you're talking about him. Yep. All right, now I got to get your take on this before I get you out of here. Okay, so, you're a stand-up comedian. You said you've done improv. Me, I'm just kind of, I'm a stand in front of the room and tell jokes kind of person. But lately, we've had my man Dwayne Kennedy, who's also down the podcast.
Yeah, he's very funny.
Yes, very funny dude. Very right.
He has a Letterman that's just insane.
Oh man, very funny dude. I was happy enough to interview him as well. He appropriately donned these new comedians that I'm about to talk about social medians, and I thought it was hilarious because it's like all of these people that are just doing these 5-minute, skits, and they're filling up comedy clubs. They're booking these people now. I gotta get your take on all the social medians and the people that are doing the IG stuff and all that, and actually being comedians and standing up and telling jokes. How do you feeling about it?
I think that it's all bullshit. I mean, if you're able to go forward, if you're able to follow whatever is popular and pander to an audience and just get them to clap at opinion, going on stage and saying rape is bad and getting applause for it is not comedy. It's not anything. All it's doing, it's just applause break comedy. Exactly. Anybody can go cancer is bad and get a reaction from a crowd.
Exactly.
Now tell me how cancer killed your dad and make it funny. You know what I mean? Like, do something that challenges a room. Yes. And I'm not saying that that people don't have the right to their story, the right to say they want to say, but a lot of the people just want to follow along this path. It's paint by numbers comedy. It's the easiest thing that they can possibly do. Mm-hmm. And if you look at somebody who is doing, Dwayne's a great example because he's doing social conscious comedy, not social justice comedy. Do you see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
See, the idea of comedy is a very interesting thing. It is, and I think Colin Quinn said it best. He goes, it is pointing out the hypocrisies of everyone while admitting you are also a hypocrite. Showing the chinks in your armor while showing everybody else's. And the problem with the comedy now is you're not showing you're not showing your vulnerabilities and your flaws.
Yeah,
you're pointing out everybody else's, and that's not comedy.
So true. That's gonna help me in my writing from now on.
That's my opinion. You should always be part of the punchline.
Exactly.
Because you and I are just as much of an asshole as anybody in that crowd. We are all human beings who fuck up.
Very true. Very true. I get it totally. That's a perfect way to put that, Colin Quinn. Yes, I'll keep that in mind. All right, so I usually kind of wrap it up with what you're doing next. I think we've already talked, and you said this podcast will drop, but I know you we're going to be doing Syracuse.
Yeah, Syracuse, or subscribe to Compound Media. You can use code Compound20, capital C, 20, Compound20. If you go to compoundmedia.com, it's like $8. It'll knock $2 off. You get a bunch of shows, including the Anthony show, the Dave Landau. Fucking Anthony Cumia Show
with Dave.
We've had a lot of titles. Compound Media.
Gotcha. Yeah. Awesome. Who are you fanning on nowadays? Like, this can be like anybody that's like new. It can be old. They can be anybody, people that you're enjoy. Like when you hear like, oh, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to watch this person because they're fucking hilarious.
You know who's the most underrated comic?
Ooh, I can't wait.
Matt McClowry.
Matt McClowry.
He is. Oh, if anybody watches Gotham, it's the best. His writing is on point. He's one of the best human beings I know. He's one of my best friends, but it's like he's a guy who I watch every time because he's great. Like it's perfect to watch him, and that's just my opinion. Is like if anybody in the industry is looking for somebody, he's just phenomenal, and I think he's great. And God, I'm trying to think of anybody. I mean, Brad Wenzel's great, but he's getting a lot of notoriety.
Wenzel's doing well. Yep, I mean, both of those guys that you mentioned, yes, our Ann Arbor
and Josh Adams
Showcase.
Out of Detroit's really good.
Oh my God, that's my man.
He
Josh
doesn't
Adams.
seem to get his due.
Yeah,
and he's a fantastic comedian.
Yeah, so. He's hilarious. Yeah. He is hilarious. Oh, those are three great names. Like I said, I have to know all three of them. And Matt McClowry, you're absolutely right. Man, I saw him I've seen him on this stage a million times. Always flawless comedy, always flawless writing. I'm talking about that's the guy. Like you said, like it's perfect to watch.
He just gets comedy. Like he's one of those people who and that's why he opens for me a lot and. He's just, even though he's a headliner, he'll do that with me. And, dude, he's a phenomenal comic.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so very much. Like I said, I know it was a whole lot of stalking. I know I got on your nerves quite a bit.
Not at all.
but we finally got you here. And I want to thank you for doing the Comedy Chatter podcast. Mr. Dave Landau, he already told you guys, I want you to repeat the comedy, the place that they can go get the show.
Compoundmedia.com.
Compoundmedia.com. You guys check it out. Thank you so much. Pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for checking out the pod. A very special thank you to my man Dave Landau. You can check out his website for future shows and info. Make sure you stay tuned to the next Comedy Chatter podcast episode. But we'll be featuring another headlining comedian and, of course, me, Meldon Williams. Make sure you continue to listen, subscribe, and support. Y'all be good to yourselves and be good to each other. Peace out.